Hello and welcome to the next part of Lazy Guy's Guide in Dark Souls 3. So in the last episode we defeated the Abyss Watchers and now we are descending into the Catacombs. So what we are going to do in the Catacombs is that we're going to get ourselves a new Undead Bone Shard. So we're going to upgrade our healing. We are going to progress up to the next boss, and we are going to get all the large Titanite shards that we need to further upgrade our weapon. Let's go. The Undead Bone Shard is very close to the beginning, and we're going to get it in just 1 second. After you took care of those skeletons, you drop all the way to that huge flight of stairs that we just saw. You have to be a little bit careful because as soon as you drop on that platform with the two skeletons, a huge ball will come rolling down. But the trick is to rush this guy right here. This guy does not attack you, but as you can see he has a hat, a sorcerer hat. This guy controls the ball. Once you kill him, the ball will just break and the Undead Bone Shard is ours. This next part is kind of full of enemies, so if you choose to take them on, be sure to have a lot of healing. But if you choose to just run through the area, be very mindful of that trap, because it's very useful. You can lure enemies into that trap and just kill them with the environment. You don't have to actually do any work yourself, just like I'm showing you here. So this enemy gets staggered and then gets rolled. Rinse and repeat for the next enemies, or alternatively you can just progress through the corridor that you'll see in just a second. So on this corridor there is another trap. It's well hidden, but there is, and you can abuse it just as you just saw. After you've killed those enemies, you are free to progress. Be mindful of another ball that guards the next bonfire, but avoid it, trigger the bonfire, and then we are ready to move on. Wait for the ball to go the other way and then rush down this hallway. There will be some rats, but I'd recommend not fighting them right now because the ball will come down any second. If you're having trouble with the enemies in this area, that ball is very useful because it hits enemies as well as yourself. So if you can lure them into the path of the ball, then you're good. Move on. Here you see a crystal lizard which has a fire gem if you need it. Just oh okay, he killed himself. Okay, cool. Anyway, then you see this lonely, depressed skeleton. You can put him out of his misery by backstabbing or just pushing him down the cliff. Bye bye. And in the hole down below there will be some goodies. Hopefully I catch one on camera. Yep. That is where we're going to go and get our last large Titanite shards. But until then, we still have a little bit of work to do. Open this little shortcut. That will come in handy in just a few minutes. Pick up the goodies and then run. So any attack that goes into the bridge will cause it to collapse, cutting off the horde of enemies that are otherwise going to charge you down. Now you are safe to progress to the boss. However, that's not what we are going to do right now. Right now we are going to go down the collapsed bridge, which now acts as a ladder. We're going to go down into the smoldering lake and pick up our titanites. Be mindful of the huge fire demon that you encounter here. This is the same type of enemy that Sigurd helps you kill earlier in the game. Hopefully you remember that encounter. But now there is no Sigurd, it's only you. And honestly, there is no purpose in you killing it, only if you want the challenge or if you want the extra souls. But mostly don't need it. So, light the bonfire as soon as you can, and then we'll go take our large titanite shards. Basically, every single shiny that you see in this area is a large titanite shard. So, what you do here is just pretty much run from shiny to shiny while avoiding the huge ballista that is shooting at you. The ballista is going to shoot volleys of 3 arrows at a time. So, it is dodgeable, but it's easier to keep an eye on it and roll away. You've seen earlier a huge rock worm, I think is the official name, and a fog door towards the boss. We are not going to tackle any of them because, quite honestly, we don't need what they give us. So the rock worm, if you manage to kill it, will drop an undead bone shard, so more healings. And the boss, you can trade his soul for a huge pyromancy, probably the best pyromancy in the game. But given that we are using shield and claymore and we are lazy, we don't do that. Anyway, I'm not going to show you how I pick up all the titanites, but they are all here. Just take everything that you need until you can max out your weapon with titanite shards, with large titanite shards, that is. One more short note about this area: if you go too far, you will trigger a lot of crabs, which are kinda hardcore to deal with. And there also is this hole here, which allows you access to a whole new area, which is called Demon Ruins. If you played Dark Souls 1, this will be a throwback for you. But for the purpose of this guide, we are not going to deal with any of the demon ruins, and we'll just move on. After we upgrade our claim. Very important. Don't forget to upgrade. At this point we need to talk a little bit about the various infusions in this game. So we have rocked so far a fire infusion, which gives you a lot of base damage but no scaling damage. Okay, so all weapons in this game have a base damage, which is a flat number damage, but okay, not all weapons, but most weapons also have scaling damage. So the more stats you have, the more damage it deals. And because at this point we should pretty much have our 35 points in vigor and 30 something points in endurance, we don't really need any more health and stamina, and we are ready to upgrade other stuff. Given that this is a purely physical build, we are going to upgrade strength and dex. And while we are upgrading strength and dex, there is another infusion that we need to keep an eye on, and that is the refined infusion. So the refined infusion lowers the base damage on weapons but adds scaling damage. So the more you go towards the late game, the more levels you get, the more it is worth to use a refined infusion. But at this moment we are not going to do any of that. We are going to apply a raw infusion instead of a fire infusion. The raw infusion deletes scaling but adds base damage. The advantage of the raw over the fire infusion is that the raw weapon can be buffed. So the overall damage of the raw infusion plus a buff will be more than what the fire weapon gives us. At this point I recommend pulling the only stunt that we're going to do in this guide. So in order for us to maximize our weapon as fast as possible and to make the late game quite easy, instead of progressing the game the normal way, what I recommend doing is going back to Vord's bonfire, head to the lady that gave us the small Lothric banner, if you remember, and do a boss which normally would come a lot later. But given that we have our weapon to all the way to +6, and now we have the raw infusion, we are ready to tackle the dancer. So this is going to be the first really hard boss that you're going to encounter. Even though it's a she. She's a giant boss. This time staying in between her legs is not really going to work because she gets very aggressive in the earlier stages. So what you should do here is that in the first stage you should try to keep a safe-ish distance and hit her whenever she's inactive. But the tricky part is in the second stage, when she has some extremely wide sweeps. You need to be very careful about your spacing because her attacks are deceptively long range. I think what I end up doing in this fight is staying very far away from her and only coming in for hits after she whiffs a huge attack. If this boss feels too hard at the moment, it's no problem. At this point you can go and progress the game normally through the catacombs. You cross the bridge and you progress that way. But because we are lazy and because we want to upgrade our weapon as fast as possible, we are sticking with the dancer. Think of this as one of those moments when you have some homework to do and you choose to do it earlier just because it would be easy than to leave it for later and you don't feel like doing it and anyway, let's enjoy the rest of the fight. With the dancer being dead, we now have access to a late game area, which gives us access in turn to Titanite chunks. So we end this episode here, and in the next one I will guide you through getting all the Titanite chunks that you need in order to get your weapon all the way up to +9, which is going to make the rest of the game quite easy for us. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.